Well, I'm glad to bring you to a client of mine, Mary. We've been working together for the past little while, and I'm excited that she took some time out of her busy day to jump on this, call with me. Mary is the trainer from Singing Dog Samoyeds training in Magna, Utah, and I'd like you to just tell a little bit about yourself and your business to begin with.
Oh yeah, I've been training for 37 years, and
Is that
Sammys
it?
are Samoyeds, and Sammys are my specialty. I do train other breeds, but I've had my most success. That's the breed that's got my heart, and
Nice.
we do obedience and rally and agility, and we've done service work. We did confirmation therapy dogs. I love that they like to their game to do anything you want to try. And I love that they have a reputation for being stubborn and untrainable, which drives me crazy because I don't think that's true at all. And so it's kind of become a personal mission to be like, I'm going to prove to you that these dogs can do it and they can do it well. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. We keep trying. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for sure you have. And then you provide this, dog training support, online and in person, right?
correct. Yeah. So because I'm kind of in the Samoyed community, I'm sort of one of the more go-to trainers in the breed. And so I actually have worked with people all over the world through video chat, but then I also work with people in person, like when I'm at shows, and then here in Utah as well, just working with people with all breeds. And I also like basic manners are a passion of mine. I think a lot of people don't realize that they can really shape how well a dog walks on a leash, how well they recall, how well they can behave in the home. And
Right.
I really try to be an advocate for no, your dog can be a really enjoyable companion, and you can you can help make them really fun to live with, which makes the dog happier because they get to participate more with you. So I really enjoy doing all that wherever people are.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do you recall why and or how we first met or connected?
Yes. So you friended me on Facebook, and then we started talking a little bit about things, and I was frustrated, especially I was getting ready to move to Utah where I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And so your timing was great in the sense that I know how to train a dog, but I don't know how to expand my business. And I didn't have, you know, decades of being in the same place and networking to my advantage when I moved. So
Right.
yeah, we got talking on Facebook and helped me definitely help make the transition to moving out here and surviving.
I feel like we might have chatted like 3 or 4 months before we actually worked together on a
I think
one-on-one
you're right.
about some things.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
Okay. So then how are things with the business before we started to work together? Do you remember? Because I think we began right before you were actually moving.
Right. And things were so I feel like I'm kind of a weird case because I just moved. Like the business was pretty decent before I moved, but then I moved and it was like, like there was just nothing. And so while business wasn't bad before I moved, like when I moved, which I mean, technically, I guess I signed up to work with you before I moved, but with all the fun of moving, I didn't actually start anything until afterwards. And,
Right.
and so if there was crickets basically for the most part. I had a little bit of carryover clientele, but it was sort of like a lot of my old clientele were like, well, she's gone, darn. And nobody out here knew me. So,
Right.
you know, so it was, I would have been in real trouble if I hadn't had help.
Yeah, it was quiet. So then how are things now? I mean, number one, maybe just let the viewers know how long you've been in Magna now.
So I've been in Magna for almost a year. Feels like forever. No, not really. And So it's much better. I'm actually getting every day almost getting reaching out from people who have just seen my posts on Facebook, and I'm getting new people responding to me. I'm getting So I'm getting a lot more traction, and I'm still working on doing the things that you tell me to do so that I can keep improving. But even with not having gone through everything that I should do, I'm still seeing, like say, every day I'm responding to people, I'm setting up appointments. So
Right.
that's made a huge difference.
For sure. Do you remember, and you don't have to give us any specific numbers, but like what you kind of left off for income wise when you're at your previous location to kind of what you're doing right now? Is it similar? Is it less right now, or is it more? Or like if you were to give us a percentage of, say, 100% income was what you left your past location at, like being a year transitioned with basically a limited number of client kind of follows, where would you feel like your sales are at as far as your dog training services at the moment?
So my sales currently are above where they were before I moved.
Okay.
So I where I was okay-ish. And then of course move everything dipped, but now I'm actually up above where I was before I moved. Um
Would you say a little bit, like say 10%, 20%,
it's
more or less?
oh numbers. It's about I would say it's about 30% right now
Okay.
consistently. Like I could live at where I was before I moved. So it's not, so this is like a nice cushion. This is a nice to be able to be, and I've with the steps that we've taken, like I have already the next 3-4 months, I know I have income coming in that is above what I had before I moved.
Right. Yeah, so that's, a significant positive thing that happened was, um, you know,
Yes.
you transitioned from a place where you were known to a place where you weren't known, and then in like a year, basically exceeded your sales from where you were before you left. And how many years did you live in that other community for?
Well, I'm geez, almost my whole life, and I'm 46. So 45 years I lived where I was.
Right.
So
So like I mean, what's interesting is like, the power of learning some techniques and tactics on how to kind of expand your following and or service your existing clients on a deeper level can make some pretty significant impact. So
absolutely.
I would be
Because I know
curious.
how to train a dog, but I don't like. I really believed in, I was like, oh well, I have a lot of word of mouth, which I did,
Right.
but I had no follow through. And now I still have word of mouth, but I have follow through. And I
Yeah.
think I have a better set of tools for following through with people, like to help them decide that they want to actually sign up for training and not just vaguely reach out. Like
Yeah.
I communicate better with potential clients.
Yeah, for sure. Because and that's a big transition that many people don't necessarily think about is like it's easy to work with someone who got a personal referral where they want to buy your service before they even contact you. That's easy, but like people don't realize, well, but you might like, yeah, that's wonderful, but what about the other 10, 15, 30, 50% or more of people that reach out to you that are chatting with numerous people? You know,
Right.
what if you could increase the amount of those contacts where they actually say yes instead of it's 1 out of 10 because they reached out to 10 other people. And
Right.
that makes a significant difference month after month.
Absolutely. Well, and it just helps even out. So instead of kind of, oh, I had a really great month, and then
Right.
like I say, I mean, I'm already with what I have signed up and booked for my business. I already know that for the next 3-4 months, I have steady income that is going to be coming in. Like I know that. So
Right.
I'm not sitting here stressing out of, oh my gosh, okay, I'm fine right now, but what's going to happen next month? Which happened a lot,
Sure.
like you have times you're really busy and times that you're not. And to have more steady, it's a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah, all the feast or famine kind of, getting out of that where, Because it's such a terrible cycle because when you feast, you're going to burn out or feel like you're going to. And then when you're famine, you're like finally a break, but then you start stressing. You can't even enjoy the break because you're like, well, how long is this going to last for? And then it's just this really rough mental kind of roller coaster ride of up and down and all around.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're like, oh, good, a break. But yeah, you're just going, oh no, oh no, oh no. And to feel like you have better tools to help keep things coming in more steadily is just, it takes a lot of pressure off. And you
Yeah.
feel, instead of feeling like you're just swinging randomly, like you feel targeted in your efforts instead of feeling like you're doing a bunch of stuff that feels like you don't like you just feel like you're being desperate, and instead
Yeah.
of being like, I have this plan, and if I do this, this is going to help me.
Yeah, definitely. Were there any unexpected benefits, by taking the course and working with me that you might have not anticipated? If there's not, that's totally okay too.
Yeah. Um, well, first of all, like the network with like some of the other trainers and stuff that you work with, I mean, just having that community, like, we help each other boost posts when needed and just bouncing ideas off of each other like that.
Hmm.
So it's not like you're not just getting benefit from Derek, from you, you're getting benefit from, it's like, oh, well, that's a good idea, or oh, I never thought of that, or just having, it's kind of like having a whole support group, like you signed up for one person, but you get a community, and that is nice. And it's been a thing, like I've actually had some puppy people that I'm like, hey, you should go check out this person because I see what they're doing. And you know what I mean? Like, so it helps expand your network, which is great, having those resources.
Well, and it's also often tough, not having the same kind of community in that, right? Depending on where you
Right.
came from or what kind of work you did in the past, where you're like, oh, okay, if I start running my own business, it's all me and no one else. And it's tough to lean
Right.
on other people in similar positions because you're kind of competition. So it's nice to have that network of people who understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing, like where I came from, it was much more population dense. There were a lot more people around me. Whereas when I'm out here, not only is it far away, but like everything is a lot more spread out. So you just feel, I don't know, there's just like you feel a connection that even though obviously you work with people all over the place, but it's
Mhm.
still a connection. And that's, I don't know, that's a benefit that I didn't think about, but it's been a nice benefit.
Yeah, definitely. If someone was on the fence about continuing, chatting or considering rather chatting with me or even joining one of my programs like a marketing accelerator or business expansion, et cetera, what would you tell them, do you think?
Do it. I mean, because I was on the fence too. I was like, well, I have all this experience. I've done all this stuff, and I'm struggling. Like, what's this guy going to do for me? And I like, those were thoughts that I had in my head.
Sure.
Like, you know, I mean, because I've had a lot of success competitively, but again, like,
Right.
I was like, well, if that's not good enough, what's this guy going to do? But it's not good enough. Like, you have to understand how to communicate effectively, and not just like I'm good at communicating with people when I'm helping them train their dogs, but as far as learning the skills to learn to communicate with people to get them to try you out as a trainer or a
Right.
groomer or whatever your professional you're doing, that's a different set of communication skills. And I mean, before I considered signing up, it was like, well, what's this guy going to do that's going to make a difference, that's going to help me? And like, um yeah, I wish I hadn't sat there and wondered about that. It is a whole different, it's a different skill set.
Yeah.
You really need to add if you're going to do this, because it's not about just how good you are with the dogs. You have to get people to bring you the dogs or it doesn't matter.
Well, I think that's where it's a good kind of follow-up to go back to. It's a whole different skill set to, work with someone that's already invested and I'm working with this person because my friend told me it's the only person I should work with versus someone being like, why should I work with you?
Right.
Without coming across as like desperate or salesy or any of the undesirable traits, right? and just
Exactly.
kind of learning processes. Because, like you say, it is a different skill set. Because people, like regular humans that are dog owners, might feel the same way that you felt about me. What is like, I've had dogs for 30 years. What is she going to show me that I don't already know? And it's like, well, probably lots because she sees from a different lens, right? And for me, that's the big distinction, right? It's really hard to, like, I like the vehicle analogy. When you're driving your car, it's you got to mostly focus on the road, right? Make sure you don't run into anything, keep it on, keep the wheels between the lines, etc. And I'm kind of like a passenger going for a ride on in your business. But the thing is, I can look around and I can see all the landscape, and maybe I even have like a what do you call those flying things with the
Drone?
a drone, and I have a
Yeah.
drone that I can go above and go ahead and look around and see what's coming in the future. And but the thing is like, working with 30 business owners in the same industry at the same time gives me a very different thing to lens to look through versus me being the owner operator of a business. So I just have access to a lot more typical problems and techniques on how to solve those problems with solutions than the average person has. But it's so hard to like, I really like the analogy of same thing with the car. I'm a passenger. When you're driving somewhere new and your child or your spouse is like, oh my gosh, look at this mountain. It's amazing. You're like, well, I can't really
Yeah.
because I'm going to get into an
I don't
accident, right?
crash. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like your tour guide. I'm like, okay, we'll pull over the car. Let's get out and look. But I can forecast things coming sooner than other people would. So, anyways, that's a great point and definitely worth kind of delving into a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, and the other thing, like being able to like, because when you have your own business and you're, chief cook and bottle washer, like you sometimes it gets overwhelming sometimes, even if maybe the workload isn't, but it's like, well, I should do this and I should do this and I should do this. And you're able to say, hey, do this first. Like, do this first. So instead of
Right.
going, oh my God, I have 800 things that I need to do, I'm like, okay. And that's something that I really struggle with. That's really hard for me is I get overwhelmed by all the stuff on the list and have trouble
Yeah.
starting to check things off. So to have someone say, do this thing. This isn't a big deal. Do this thing. I mean, it's almost like 12-step program for how to be
Yeah.
a better dog person. Like it's okay, just do this one. And then so then you quit feeling so thoroughly overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you start to go, oh yeah, okay, I only have to do this. And then you're like, all right, now only do this. And it's like, okay, I can do this. And pretty soon you've done several steps and then you see things getting better and then you start to relax a little bit and then it's
Right.
easier to keep going.
Approximations for business owners.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, yeah, and that's another good point is like I want to like it's so easy to get overwhelmed with your an endless to-do list, but lots of times most of the to-do list doesn't need to be done right away, right? So
Right.
deciphering well A, B, C, D, and E really won't make that big of an impact in the next 3 weeks, but F, G, and I will. So why don't we reprioritize these to the top? And things like that definitely help. So that's a good distinction as well.
Yeah. And like say you are good at being like, yeah, you don't need to freak out about all this stuff right now. Like this is actually because sometimes what I thought needed to be the priority isn't what needed to be the priority. And you're like, no, just do this. Really? Okay. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, and especially when I'm looking through the lens and like being quite neutral as far as well, what you told me you wanted with from your business was X, and if you
right.
do Y, it's not going to get you closer. It's going to distract you away from it. So, do you really want X? Yeah, okay, then you should be doing A,
Right.
and just kind of carving out that path and simplifying something because it's so easy to get distracted by lots of things. Like one of my other clients was working on SEO for his website and so forth for like a few months. And I was like, it's you run a brick and mortar facility, like you don't need great SEO. If you're a digital business, yeah, your SEO needs to be top notch because you're competing with the world. But I'm like, if you just do like literally 10 minutes of tweaks on Google, which I
Yeah.
did a video on, I'm like,
Right.
this will probably position you, 2 to 3, 4, even 5 spots higher just by rewording a couple of things. And it's like, oh, and that's something tangible and actionable. So that's just where obviously I try to bring the skill set of working with lots of business owners and seeing where they typically get hung up and where they spend time that isn't actually going to necessarily benefit their ultimate goal.
Right.
Okay, well,
Right.
that's pretty much about it. I appreciate you taking the time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up for the day?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I think
Well, thank
we're
you
good.
for jumping on here with me, and thanks for giving me that shot
Yeah.
initially. And as always, I'm grateful for that opportunity and to continue to work alongside you.
And I appreciate it because I'd be floundering without you. So,
Okay, win-win.
yeah.
Thanks.